Hello, my name is William Winkle. This interview is for the Detroit Historical Society's Detroit 67 Oral History Project. I'm in Detroit, Michigan, and I am joined by John R. Eddings. Thank you so much for coming in with me, sitting down with me today.
My pleasure.
Can you please start by telling me where and when were you born?
I was born in Corinth, Mississippi in 1943.
What brought your family to Detroit from Mississippi?
My father came up here after the war, got a job in one of the parch plants, and we followed him in 1950 and been here ever since.
Coming here as such a young child, what was your first impression of the city?
Well, Corinth was, although it was the county seat, was a very small town. You knew almost everybody in here. Detroit was just a big, bustling city, and it was not at all intimidating, though. I've always thought about Detroit as a big, friendly, country town. If you want to get to know your neighbors, you can. If you don't, that's okay, too.
When your family moved here, what neighborhood did you live in?
Right there next to the Olympia, the original Olympia Stadium at McGraw in Grand River.
When you moved into that neighborhood, was it integrated?
Yes. So I'd say about 50, 60% black, maybe 30, 40% white.
Would you like to share any memories you have of growing up in that neighborhood?
Well, the one thing that stands out is that it's a neighborhood that you don't find these days. In other words, no matter where I went, and I consider the neighborhood about 6 blocks by 6 blocks, because that's about as far as we were allowed to wander, okay? Anybody in that area, if you did something wrong, they could discipline you. Wasn't none of this, don't lay hands on my kid, and then you got another one when you got home, okay? So you were constantly supervised, although it may not have been obvious. Also, if you were at somebody's house and it was time to eat, I don't care what meal, you ate. I mean, it's what I call a true neighborhood, yeah.
So you said you weren't allowed to wander past those 6 blocks?
No, we had parameters, there were a lot of them, yeah. The street lights couldn't beat you home. Mm-hmm. Okay, you were going to go so far. If you were going to go beyond that, you had to come back home and get permission because the parents wanted to know where you were. They wanted to know who you were with, where you were going, and why you had to go. And just wanting to go wasn't an option.
Growing up, what schools did you go to?
I started off with Estabrook Elementary, which is now been replaced by another school right there at McGraw and Linwood. From there, I went to Pattengale, and from there, I went to Tappan Junior High, and from there to Northwestern High School. And then I went to college in Virginia.
What years did you go to college in Virginia?
1961 to 65. Went to Hampton University.
After you finished your time at university, did you come back to Detroit?
Oh, yeah, there was never any question. I didn't go through any job interviews when I graduated because I knew I was coming back home.
During that time you were away and you had come back, when you came back, did you notice any significant changes in the city? Any more tension? Initially,
no, but you could see it start to build, and okay, I remember the old Hastings Street, okay? Mm-hmm. And I remember the urban renewal that wiped out Hastings and forced everybody to 12th Street. And to me, that's about the time the resentment started because the only people that appeared to be being displaced were black folks. They called it urban renewal, but, urban renewal for who? It wasn't for the black folks.
So what neighborhood did you move into when you came back to the city?
Oh, we were living on Buena Vista then. That's near Davidson and Linwood. And we stayed there until I got engaged and eventually got married.
And when did you get married?
1968.
Okay. So, going back to your 6-block parameter, after you came back, did you explore the city?
Oh yeah, we would go ride the bus. That was a big entertainment. I think it was only 10 or 15 cents. Mm-hmm. You could go ride the bus, go to different movie theaters. But as far as And that was the extent of the exploring, unless we were going to visit somebody. It wasn't these things where you would get on the bus and decide you want to go all the way to the east side to see what was there, because it was sort of an unwritten rule. Woodward was the dividing line. There was east siders, there was west siders. And unless you got forced together, you just didn't mix, okay?
Are there any other memories you'd like to share before we start talking about 67?
It was a time of innocence. I mean, nobody worried. I mean, the worst thing you got into was a fist fight. People didn't even have knives in those days, you know. And those fights were over in a few seconds, and then you went off being buddies. Wasn't it long-term grudges? You know, I mean, it was just a totally time of innocence, I think.
Okay. Were you still living over by Linwood in 67?
Oh, was I? I lived on Pingree in Linwood in 67, right where all those houses burned down. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did you first hear what was going on Sunday morning?
It's really kind of weird. My fiance then, my wife now, she had talked me into going to church with her. So I believe in religion, but I'm not a big churchgoer, okay? Mm-hmm. And at the church, people were talking about the raid the previous night. And there was some talk about, believe it or not, there was some talk about trouble. We were going on a picnic that day, and we just ignored it, so we went out the store for a picnic. About 4 or 5 o'clock, we were on our way back, and as we got closer to the city, we started seeing the smoke. And when we got out of here to Livernois and Grand River, the cops had it blocked off. And so, but I knew the back road, so we got around that, and I took her home, and then I went home, and so I drove down Dexter. I drove down Linwood. I saw people looting on Dexter. I saw people standing outside stores with these big rifles protecting their property. I mean, it was, at that time, there wasn't much fire. A few fires, not much. There's mostly looting going on at that time. Same thing over on Linwood. The thing that amazed me, and I tell everybody this, and they don't know if they remember or not. I had good eyesight then, okay? I have never seen so many cars with out-of-state plates. I mean, almost every car you saw, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio license plates, you know? And that's one thing that really struck me. The next day, and that was just like a startup. Next day, there was a gas station on the corner of Pingree and Linwood. Don't know how it caught on fire. Some people say it was an accident. Some people say it was firebombed. Anyway, it blew up. And when it blew up, it jumped over about 9 houses, the flames there on Pingree, and set the one on fire, and then the fire came back. So about 9 or 10 houses in a row burned down. They were never rebuilt. There's a park there now. I lived across the street, third house off of Linwood. The heat was so intense. The tires on it was a 2-family flat. We lived upstairs, Mike lived downstairs. The tires on my aunt's car melted in the driveway. Okay, no firemen came, but now we start to see the military vehicles. But they never came on the side streets. They rode up and down Linwood, and they were shooting at everything that moved on Linwood. But the firemen didn't come for, hours. When they finally came, they couldn't get any water pressure. So the houses just kept burning. It was, and the thing about it is, at the time, we were worried, but not necessarily frightened. I don't know if we were in shock or what, but it wasn't one of those things where there was terror, fear. We were worried about the house catching on fire and a whole lot of other things, and not too much about personal safety, because all the action seemed to be elsewhere. By now we're listening to the radio. We're hearing about the trouble on the east side. TV's not working, so you don't know. But but all we saw was the National Guard up and down Linwood. At that time, I was working for the city of Detroit. So 2 days later, I went back to work. Went through the police barricades. They didn't stop me. Went to work, came home. In the meantime, there was different flare-ups going on around the city, I understand. but there were certain, groups that were trying to calm, put some calm on the masses, and it's my understanding that Martha Jean Queen was instrumental in doing that and trying to get people to become more rational. The couple of times when I went through the police barricades and I did not have any problems, then we started piling in my car and taking a survey. And we went down the Dexter, Grand River Boulevard area. We saw where Charles Furniture had been looted. We came up, and by this time, there are bricks all over the streets where there had been other trouble. The streets are littered with bricks. It was just, I took hundreds of pictures. I don't know where they are now. Black and white pictures. So, it was at that point it started to seem like it wasn't real. And you started thinking with a warlike mentality. And it was, I'm not sure. It's just one of those things where, you look back and you wonder, did we really live through that? And the answer is yeah. And now at nighttime, when the shooting got really bad, we slept on the floor beneath the windows. It was, brick, then the windows up here. We slept on the floor beneath the windows. But no, like I said, all this time there was no panic, there was no fear. After things got quiet is where the real, for lack of a better word, the real anger bubbled up as far as I was concerned. And I've never forgiven them for this here. During the fire across the street, our shingles started smoking. So we got the water hose. During the fire across the street, heat was so strong, our shingles started smoking. So we got one of the kids to climb up there with water hose, and it sort of trickled water all over the shingles, okay? I'm saying that to bring it to the other part, okay, now. After everything was gone and everything, shingles roof was in bad shape. So we called the insurance company, Travelers. We had insurance Traveler at the time, the red umbrella. They denied our claim, contributory negligence. They said, you can't prove the roof would have caught on fire. Therefore, if you hadn't wet the roof down, you wouldn't have had this problem and yada, 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 okay? I've never forgiven them for that. Then they turned around and canceled us, of course. So, people, more than what may have led up to it, people got screwed afterwards more than prior. Yeah.
What do you think led to it?
I have a theory. I don't know if it's true or not, okay? I think people in general had reached the point. First of all, there were several groups. I think there was always a small group of troublemakers waiting for an opportunity to do something, okay? But people in general had gotten to the point where the frustration level, more than the anger level, was incredibly high. One thing I've learned, when you have a situation that's going to evoke some anger, you need a pressure release point. You need somebody that you can talk to, appeal to, or whatever, okay? Black folks didn't have anybody like that, okay? So it kept boiling. So this was a blow-off, of all that frustration and everything. And I think it had to do with the urban renewal. Let me tell you, you see, I don't understand, I'm speaking for all black folks, but let me tell you my philosophy. If you're a racist and you don't want to mingle with me, that's okay. Just be honest about it. Don't give me that smiling face and then stab me in the back, okay? Because we ain't got the mix. At one point, Detroit was like that. And while it was openly like that, everybody tolerated everybody else. You follow me? You may not have been treated fairly, but you knew what to expect under certain circumstances, okay? And so you dealt with it. When it became submerged and hidden, that's when the problems really get bad. That's when the problems really get bad. And people basically took advantage of the black community. And I don't know if we're ever going to get over it. This town now is probably more polarized now than just before the riot. Because right now, in 5 years, if you don't own your home, you're not going to be afford to live in this city in 5 years. Just not. You're not. If you don't own your property now, you're not going to be able to buy it here in 5 years. And it's still that, like I call it the rolling urban renewal. They started with Black Bottom, went up Hastings, went up 12th Street, and as they took those areas, they didn't, other than the freeway, they didn't put anything there immediately for it. Grand River is a good example. Okay, now if they had really wanted to do something, they'd run that freeway straight out Grand River, not a block over Grand River. That's one reason I had to move one place, because my house would have been in the middle of the freeway, okay? the freeway out back here. And in many ways, it appeared as though it was a pushback, that they were just going to push the black folks out farther and farther and farther. Now, when they pushed us out further, the other neighborhoods went. Now, where I moved when I got married, I think there were, this is right in back of U of D. I'm sorry, Mercy. I'm sorry, Mary Grove. right there at Wyoming and Puritan. That's where I moved. When I first moved there, I think there were 2 or 3 black families on that block. In 2 years, all the white folks were gone. 2 years, all gone. And but it's just one part. It's going to sound crude, but bear with me. That rebellion was a necessary evil. It was a necessary evil strictly as an attention getter. For example, in my opinion, if Malcolm X did not exist, nobody would have listened to Martin Luther King. He would have been an extreme radical, okay? But you've got to have something to compare things to. You got to give people a choice. Presidential election we got right now is the same example. Neither one is acceptable, but you have to make a choice, okay? If there's only one person there, then people think they don't have to make a choice or do nothing. So the rebellion was an attention getter. Unfortunately, the people that we elect didn't follow through on all their promises. It's like once elected, they became more interested in what was in it for themselves, okay? And people who should be elected don't want to be bothered with politics, So that's my sad tale.
Well, my next question was going to be, how do you refer to what happened in 67, but you refer to it as a rebellion,
rebellion.
And that is exactly why.
Yeah, rebellion.
Did you see the city in a different light afterwards?
Oh, yeah. Remember, I worked for the city.
Mm-hmm.
I was amazed at how many white folks were shocked that it happened. I mean, they just couldn't comprehend it, because I think they'd never been that angry. They'd never been in those situations which caused that type of anger. It was an attention getter.
Mm-hmm. Did you, given that you were so close to the violence and you saw the arson firsthand, did you ever say to yourself, I need to get out of this city?
No, not once. Still don't. Of course, now my daughter's out of town and she's yanking my chain, but that's the only thing that would make me leave.
Do you think you mentioned it earlier that the city is more polarized than ever. Do you think the shadow of the events of 67 still hang over the city and the metro area?
In some people's mind, yes, okay. And maybe it does. Honestly, I don't know. In a couple of years, most of the people who were involved in 67 are going to be dead. So really it boils down to what are they telling their kids and grandkids?
Very true.
Yeah.
Moving past 67, then, are you optimistic for the state of the city today? You
In what way? For the city or for the black folks in the city?
Both.
Okay, for the city, I'm optimistic, very optimistic. For the black folks in the city, I'm not so optimistic because I don't think they're going to get an opportunity to get their fair share. It's all about, these days, money and political influence. And right now, black folks don't have it. Now, when Coleman Young was mayor, he turned out the vote. The only reason Detroit got anything out of Lansing was because Mayor Young could turn out the vote. John Engler, when he was running, said he didn't need Detroit because Detroit had stopped voting because Mayor Young had left office. He didn't need Detroit. And he was right. And so with that, and every administration since then, Detroit has gotten less and less and less influence because we don't vote. You know, the vote right now is the only thing you got to get somebody's attention. You don't use it, you're not going to have it. The speeches and all that stuff, that don't work. It don't work. How are we going to get the vote back? I don't know. You know, you had a succession of mayors. You know, Dennis Archer was a nice guy, but he was the worst mayor Detroit ever had. Okay. Kwame was a thief. But he was only allowed to get away with what he did because of what Dennis did. Dennis Archer came in, and when you work for a bureaucratic organization, most bureaucrats will have a procedure set up where they'll spend $1,000 to keep you from stealing one, okay? Dennis came in and said, oh, my people aren't going to steal. So he got rid of all the checks and balances, okay? Well, what he failed to realize is he wasn't going to be mayor forever. So Kwame comes. Kwame going to steal. Oh, nobody going to steal a lot. Nobody said anything. We'll steal some more because all the checks and balances. If the checks and balances had been left in place, Kwame would have been in jail in 6 months. Or he wouldn't have been stealing because he knew he couldn't get away with it, you know. But like I say, you know, people do not, particular politicians, do not fully understand what I call unintended consequences. Okay, you know. They do not look long range. They look to the next election. They don't look long range, you know. So, hey.
Is there anything else you'd like to add today?
No, I've talked more than I'm supposed to talk.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure.